Okay, so today we will be talking about JavaScript objects. And objects are in a way like most important thing because everything in JavaScript is actually revolving around objects. So we'll be using objects like a lot of time. Everywhere we'll be using objects. Okay. So that's why it's very essential that you guys should know about objects, what it is, how does it work and all that stuff. Okay. So that's what we need to know. Cool. Let's just wait for a few more minutes to make sure everyone has joined, and then we'll see. We'll start sharp at 8:02. Hey Mantu. Okay, so for Ashutosh, his browser worked finally. Cool. I'm good, Piyush. I'm good. How about you guys? Okay, it's 8:02 now. Let's start. Well, the idea of object itself came from this thing which we call it as object oriented programming, right? The way we write our programs is what we say, right? The object oriented programming we say. Now, object oriented programming means that we try to create things like an object. Now, what is an object? Now, in a way, what you can say, an object is something which exists, right? Which exists in real world. The main idea initially came like this: something which exists in real world is being called as object. For example, we could say you and me like a real world, right? For example, I could say there could be a thing called person, right? A person can be an object, right? A bank can be an object because it exists, right? It exists, correct? So that's the idea behind the object. The main idea behind object is something which exists. Got it, everyone? I hope you're getting what I'm saying. So in JavaScript, what JavaScript initially did, right? So initially JavaScript, when JavaScript came into existing, when initially JavaScript, the things were happening, we had something called objects, okay? And these objects were a little different than the objects which we had in C Sharp, Java type languages. Even Java, C Sharp type languages also have objects, but those are a little different. However, in ES6, JavaScript tried to combine all those things. So basically, after ES6, the JavaScript objects and the C Sharp and Java object kind of started look like a bit similar to each other. Okay, and this is something we will talk about. So we'll talk something about class when we'll be talking about object-oriented programming in JavaScript. That is something we'll be doing in future. For now, we'll be talking about the JavaScript object which we initially had. Even today, also we use it, but not class. So today we are not talking about class. Today we are talking about a plain JavaScript object. So we are talking about plain JavaScript object, like what it is. Okay. Now the idea of object is we essentially have a set, a collection of things which are having a key and a value. So against a key, you have a value. So in JavaScript, for example, if I need to create an object, say var objects, I will say curly brace. I'll create one curly bracket, then close this curly bracket, and within this, I'll be mentioning all my key value pairs. Okay. Now consider what. So it could be like this. It's like key one. Okay. Then I use colon. Okay, and then I tell the value what the value is. Say value is string, right? Value, then comma, then I can use another key, say key 2 colon, and its value, whatever that value we would like it to be. Okay, then comma. So this thing which we are creating is an object. Now in your normal variables, when you create, right? Now if I talk about the data types, so the data types which we had, correct, we had what? Primitive, right? And we had what else? We had primitive, we also had non-primitive, right? Now primitive are the one which contains one value at a time, right? Which contains one value, like your string, number, boolean, right? They all were containing one value. However, your non-primitive, which is your object, can contain multiple values, right? This guy is able to contain multiple values. Let's see objects in action actually, and then we will actually get more idea about it. Okay, so what I'll do is the same thing here. I will, so we had this one. I'll just close this once. We had introduction to Java. I'll create a, sorry, the JavaScript. I'll say objects and JSON. So we'll talk about JSON also. But first thing first, which I'll be doing is I'll be creating a index.html. Okay. So this is something Rohit will be talking about when we'll be talking about data structure, linear and non-linear. Not today. Okay. So object.js, and then I have my index.html. I'll just use some boilerplate code, and then I will include my script file. You guys know about this already, and I will include this objects.js, so that whatever the code which we guys will be writing, we should be able to see that. Okay, let's save it. Fine. And what do? We do go live, and there we have it, and just create a developer tools as well. Cool. That's all what we have. Now object.js. Here what I'm going to be doing is control B, console.log objects in JavaScript. And we see our code being executed by the browser, and we see our objects in JavaScript. Now, when we had the other data types, right? Just have a quick recap of other data types which we had. So we had string, right? So we said where x equals to hello. So what is x? X is a string, correct? Which we can print console.log x. You can see hello is coming there, right? Similarly, we had what? We had numbers. We had numbers. So see, if I say where num number equals to 12, and if I say console.log num, it gives me number. Okay, good enough. Then we had boolean, right? If I say where bool equals to true, right? True or false. We could have the values are essentially true and false. So if I log this value, I could see the values coming like that, correct? So we had these three types of primitive ones, right? Then we also had something which we called as array. We talked about array also. So if I say where arr equals to bracket 1 comma 2 comma 3 comma true, if I write like this and I say console.log arr and save it, I'm getting an array. Clear? We are clear with all these data types. So we already know about these data types. And then comes the object. Then comes the object, which we are talking about today. So it is also a variable where x, not x, obj consider is one object which I'm trying to create. Or say not obj, I'll call it as person. So I'm creating an object called person. Okay. Then I say bracket I have created, and within the brackets I'll be using what? Key value pairs which I talked about. Consider I'm saying first name colon, say first name is Neeraj, comma, last name colon Sharma, colon city, I'll say Bangalore. Okay, so this is an object which we have created. This is an object which is having these key value pairs. Okay, and these key value pairs are also called as properties. Okay, so here person is an object. Okay, person is a object. okay, and first name comma last name comma city are keys or properties. So we call these guys as properties also. So these are the properties. These are the properties. Yes, Bhupinder, if you want to, for example, you can also have. I'll come to that one, Bhupinder. I'll come to that. Wait a minute, huh? I'll tell you why an array is an. You remember I told you array is an object. So how array is an object, that I'll explain in a minute. Okay. So this is what. So we have a person object which is basically containing three properties: first name, last name, and city. And the value of first name is Neeraj. The value of last name is Sharma, and the value of city is Bangalore. Clear? Now if I console log this object, console.log this person object, and if I save it here, you see this comes like this, right? This is exactly what we created, isn't it? This is exactly what we created. Everyone agree? Anyone has any doubt? Right? Now see, we have created an object which has these many properties. How do we access a specific property? How do we access a specific property? How do we do that? So access specific property or key, right? So we can say console.log person dot. So as what do? We use something called dot operator. So we are using this dot operator. We say person dot. Now what you want to access? See, my ID itself is telling me that person object is having city, first name, and last name. So I want to access first name. Person dot first name I'm trying to access. Okay. And if I do this, I get Neeraj, correct? Similarly, if I say console.log person dot city, so I get Bangalore. So dot object is the one which you use to access the property of an object. Clear, everyone? Okay, cool. Now, this is one way that we can access. Okay, another way of accessing property slash key. So you could use something like this. You could say console.log person, then you can use it like an index bracket. You remember the bracket what we had in array? Same bracket, and then double quotes, you have to tell the property name. The property name is first name, right? If I save this, see again I'm getting Neeraj only. Okay. If I say console.log person what? Last name. Now again, the property names which we have here are case sensitive. So I'm getting Sharma here, right? So last name. So if I say L, if I make N as small, then what happens is, see, this doesn't work. Then I get undefined. That means I do not have that. I do not have it, right? So the casing should always be there. That means you have to remember what the casing is. If the casing is wrong, then the things will not work. Yes, Bhupender, that is necessary. That is necessary. Why it is necessary? See, essentially what you're trying to say, you basically access the property by their name. So whatever the name the key is having, right? One way or other way of doing it, right, is this. You could also say something like this. X, you could say first equals to, even this works. First name, right? And if I say console.log person bracket first. So what is happening here? When I'm saying first person first, so what is happening? This value is actually coming in place of first here. So that is essentially writing the same stuff like this, right? So even this works. So I get Neeraj here. But this is what? This is like having the first. It is actually copying this first name here only, right? So I'm actually accessing the first name only. It's not that you have to have double quotes always, but this thing should always be like this. Can we access the index like array and string? So we don't have any index here, Pupender. So there is no index. There is a property. Yes, we can do that. So Nasim is asking whether we can take that as a number. That is what we do. That is what the array does, right? You remember array? Consider if I need to create an array, say where arr, I'll say, or arr2 I'll call it, because I have already created one arr on the top. So arr I'll say, and this one I'll create as an object. Okay, I'll create it as an object, and I'll say 0. At 0 we have value 1 comma, then at one index we have value 2, then index 2 we have value 3, and then say on index 3 we have value 4, right? So we have created an object. Okay, now if I need to access this, how do I access? I say array2 bracket 0, right? You see I get 1, right? If I say console.log arr2 bracket 1, so I get 2. Now if I console log that entire thing, then what do I get? I get that entire object. Okay, that is why we say objects, the array are object in JavaScript. Array are object in JavaScript, and I will prove that thing also again. Okay, so we have this operator, we have this keyword. Basically this is a, how we had type of, you remember? Let's see this. We say console.log type of, type of bracket arr, arr. Now what is this arr? This is something which we created here, right? You see arr, I've created an array. Let's see what is the type of this array. So the type of this array is actually object. You see, it says the type of object, type of array is actually object. So this array is nothing but an object only. So internally, maybe JavaScript is doing something similar like this. Clear, everyone? And at the same time, if I say console.log, the type of person which we created, right? The person object. You remember we created this person here on the top, person object. So if I save that, that is also an object. Obviously, it is an object, right? Anyone has any doubt? So what are the properties? Can you guys tell me what are the properties? What are properties in an object? No, not nothing with JSON, Nikhil. It is not related to JSON. What are the properties? What are the properties in just this thing? So properties are not key value. The properties are actually the key. Okay. The properties are actually the keys. I have said it here, right? These keys are the properties. This is what we call it as properties. Okay. Why array is object? Please explain. So array. So Bhupinder, what I was trying to tell you, right? This is how you could create an array by yourself if you are using an object. Internally, even JavaScript does something similar. So whenever you use something like this, right? You say arr equals to bracket 1 comma something something, say 1 comma 2 comma 3 comma 4. Internally, JavaScript changes this thing to this one, this only. Okay, so that essentially becomes like that. So that's when an array is an object. Clear? Okay. Anyone has any doubt on whatever I have taught so far? Anything? Cool. Now see, we have these object, but object works in a little different way. Array works in object. नहीं निखिल, मैंने क्या कहा? Array object ही होता है. Array works object मतलब मेरे को बात समझ में नहीं आई. But array are objects only, right? That's what I told. If you see the type of array which you have created, that is also object, and the type of object which you have created is obviously object. So what I'm saying, if you create an array, automatically internally JavaScript will create an object only for an array. That's what I'm saying. Okay, I hope it is clear. Okay, ठीक है. Okay, now see, there is something different about objects which you have. Okay, one thing is that you have object which can store multiple values, right? That is one thing. And then you have normal value, like normal data types, like which are your string, boolean, and numbers. There is one more thing which you guys need to understand is the data type which we have as primitive. Okay, the primitive data types are also called as, I'll tell you again, these primitive types are also called as value types. Value types. Okay. And these objects are called as reference type. Okay. In ARR, you have entered only one value, so why it is showing type as object instead of showing as array? If multiple values हो तब नहीं, ऐसा नहीं है ना. See, the moment you say, see one thing, Piyush, I have entered. See, this is ARR. Okay, this is the array. Array I have created here, which has multiple values. That is one thing. But the moment, even if you have a single value, if you create say ARR equals to bracket 1, the moment when you are using this syntax, it means it's going to be an array. Even though it has one value, it can have multiple values, but it will have at least one value. Clear? You can enter more values to array. That's the thing. अरे वही तो बोल रहा हूँ ना कि टाइप एरे नहीं होता है. जावास्क्रिप्ट में एरे ऑब्जेक्ट ही होता है. तो एरे क्यों दिखाएगा? मैं कह रहा हूँ एरे होता ही नहीं है वैसे. वही तो मैं कह रहा हूँ ना यहाँ पे कि मैंने एरे क्रिएट किया ना. सी दिस इज एन एरे. ठीक है, ये एरे क्रिएट किया टॉप में यहाँ पे. ये एरे है. ठीक है, पर मैं कह रहा हूँ उसका जो टाइप है वो ऑब्जेक्ट ही है. क्योंकि इंटरनली जावास्क्रिप्ट कुछ ऐसा करती है. अगर तुम ऐसा क्रिएट करो, जैसे क्या होगा ना, तुम ऐसा कर लो, ठीक है, तो जावास्क्रिप्ट इंटरनली क्या करेगी, उसको ऐसा बना देगी. ये ठीक है, ऐसा होता है. हाँ, ठीक है. Now what I was telling you about is primitive and reference. Sorry, I was telling you about this thing. Primitive. Wait a minute. So I was saying you have primitive, which are the value types. Then you have non-primitive, right? Which are your like objects, correct? So if you remember when we were talking about non-primitives, which we said are objects, array, and functions, right? So we have talked about objects and array, which are nothing but objects only. Which are nothing but objects only. Even this function is also an object only in JavaScript. The functions are also objects. When we'll talk about functions, that time I'll tell you. So, and these types, the non-primitive types, all these types are called as reference type. They are also called as reference type. Now, what is the difference between a reference type and a value type? Okay, now let's try to understand that. We are talking about value type versus reference type. So for example, if you say where a equals to 2, okay, so what happens, right? When you say a equals to 2, you have, whenever your program runs, right, it use two kind of memories. It use two types of memories. Okay, one memory is called as stack, and the other type of memory is called as heap. One memory is called as stack, the another memory is called as heap. Now when you say a equals to 2, what it means that in the memory it will allocate, say consider in the memory this is the address of the thing, okay, and in here it is pointing to 2. So what is happening, this a is actually pointing to this memory location which has value 2. A is pointing to this memory location which has value 2. So whenever you access a, you basically get the value 2. Clear, everyone? Okay, but when you say where b equals to an object which has say name, some name, what happens is you allocate a memory in the stack, okay, and this address on this, so basically b will point to this address, and this address will contain another address it will contain, and that address will point to the real object which is in the heap. So whenever you create any object in JavaScript, that object sit in the heap. That object sit in the heap, not in the stack. Only the reference, that means the location where that object is, its reference. So that is why we call it as a reference type. Why? Because this B is actually pointing to a reference which is pointing to this object. So that is why we say it is a reference type. Clear, everyone? Anyone has any doubt on the reference type and the value type? Okay. See, heap में क्या हुआ? Wait. Okay. Say you say where a equals to 10. So what happens? You have two things in your memory. Okay, JavaScript use two part of the memory. One part is used as stack. They call it as a stack. The other part is called as heap. The other part is called as heap. Now, when you say where a equals to 10, that means in the memory location, in your memory, there are certain locations, right, where you'll be putting the items. Say the location is x1, 2, 3 is the location. To that location, the number 10 has been stored. To that location, number 10 has been stored. So you say a equals to 10, that means whenever you access a, now if you say console.log a, what it is doing, it is basically pointing to this location which contains the number, which contains the number. Clear? Which contains the number. Okay, but and that is on the stack. When you say where b equals to an object, this is an object. Okay, in this case what happens, you will the object, right, whenever you create any object, the object instead of sitting on the stack, they go on the heap. So basically what will happen, there will be some memory allocated in the heap. Consider that memory location as x232. Okay, in here you will have this object which you created, okay, with the name and everything. This is the object which is being created. Now what will happen, this b variable will be allocated here. Okay, this b variable will be allocated here, and consider this is the location, like say x32, something like that. And within this you will actually contain this number which is x232. Basically what is happening, your variable b is actually having a reference to the item in the heap. Your variable b, see earlier your variable a is directly having the values 10, but in here your variable b is actually having a location. It is pointing to the location, and that location is pointing to the heap. Clear? Clear, everyone? Okay, now with this something interesting happens. Okay, now let me tell you what that interesting thing is. Now I'm telling you something about reference type versus value type. Consider a situation, right? I'll say where let's say where a equals to 10, where a equals to 10, and then I say where b equals to 10, sorry, b equals to 12. Okay, and then what I say is where, sorry, then I say a equals to b, then I say a equals to b. So Nasim, we haven't talked about the class. When the class will come, at that time we will talk. Okay, because it will be confusing right now though. But again, everything allocates on the heap, even in the case of class. Okay, only the reference, only the variable which is pointing to that thing will be on the stack. Okay, so what I said is a equals to 10, b equals to 12. Then I said a equals to b. Okay, and then what I will do, I will say console.log my a, and I'll say console.log my b, right? And then I'll say b equals to 12. and then I'll say console.log my A and console.log my B. Okay. Now, can you guys tell me what's going to be the output for first one? What will be the output for the first one? 10. Okay. 10, 10. Most people are saying 10, 10. Okay. How about B? What will be the output for B? 12, 10, 12. Okay. Most people are saying 12. Okay. Now, what will be the output of A? What will be the output of A? What will be the output of A here? 12, 12. Okay. 12. Okay. Fine. What will be the output of B here? What will be the output of B? 12, 12. Okay. Let's see. So this is what we did, right? And let's just do a console.clear before this. Okay. Save. So we got 12, 12, 12, 12. We got all 12. Why? So we had A equals to 10, B equals to 12. We said A equals to B. That means what we did? We assigned 12 to the A, right? So now A actually became what? 12. Okay. Then we said what is the value of B? Obviously B is 12, so it came as 12. Then what I did, I made B equals to 12. Or maybe what I should do, one more thing, I will make it as say 13. Okay. Now can you guys tell me what the output will be? Everyone, I'll just change few things here. Wait a minute. Make this as 9. 9. Okay. Now tell me what the first output will be. A 13. Okay. B, what will be the value of B? 13. Okay. What will be the value of A? What will be the value of A? Oh, okay. 1 minute, 1 minute. Instead of saying, oh, sorry, wait a minute. Instead of saying 13, 13, just say B is going to be A, this value, right? So that I know that you guys are saying that. What will be the value of A? What will be the value of A? 13? Okay, 13. What will be the value of B? B. Okay, 13, 13 I'm getting. Okay, cool. Let's see. So we got 13, 13, 12. We got 13, 13, 12. Why? So initially we had A equals to 9, B equals to 13. Okay. So we said A equals to B. So what we did, we assigned B to A. So A became 13. Okay. Then we said B equals to, so B, we got 13. Then we said we changed the value of B to 12. We changed value of B to 12. But see, that did not change the value of A. See, A is actually B, right? Okay. You're getting what I'm trying to tell you? What I'm saying is, see, at this point of time, what happened? See, at this point of time, A is actually B. A is actually B. Some people are not clear. Okay, let me explain this thing again. Or maybe I'll explain you this thing. Okay, this thing will get super clear when I will have the reference example. Wait a minute. I will first let me write that another example also. Okay, where I'll say obj So I have obj A. So this is my object A. This has A equals to say 12 and B equals to say 10. A equals to 12, B equals to 10. Okay. Then I have say another variable where obj B, where I'm assigning another variable which is A equals to 13, 14 or whatever it is, and B equals to 10. So P equals to say 15. Okay. Now what I'm saying, obj A equals to obj B. Obj A equals to obj B. Okay. Object A equals to object B. Then what I'm going to be saying is I'll do obj B, obj B dot A equals to 100. Okay. Then I would like to do a console.log of obj A dot A. Okay. Now let's come from the top. I have two variables A and B. Both are value types. Okay. A equals to 9, B equals to 13. Now what I did here, I did a copy. Basically, I assigned B to A. Basically what happened, we copied the value of B to A. Agree? Everyone? Till here? So my A became what? My A became 13. Okay. So A became 13. Okay. And B is obviously 13. So we got 13. Then what I did, I changed the value of B to 12. I changed the value of B to 12. Okay. So what is the value of my A now? What is the value of my A now? A was B, right? So that is 13 only. And what is the value of B now? Which is 12. Okay. Now see something same I did here also. In my reference type also I am doing the exactly same thing. This is my object. This is my object. These are my two variables. Okay. Then what I did, I said object A equals to object B. Object A equals to object B. Okay. Then I said object B dot A equals to 100. Object B dot A equals to 100. And then I'm saying object A dot A. What is going to be the value? Can you guys tell me? Can you guys tell me? Object A dot A. Object A dot A. What will be the value? Some people are saying 100. Some people are saying 14. Okay. The value will actually be 100. Let's see. The value actually came as 100. But this is surprising why it happened. See, ideally it should not happen, right? In the case of value, it did not happen, right? Because we changed the value of A. See what we did here. See, A equals to B we did, and then we changed the B. We did A equals to B and then we changed the B, but that did not impact the A. That is what happened in the value type, right? In case of this one, what we did object A to object B, right? And then we change the value of object B. Same here, right? Here also we change the value of B, and here also we change the value of B, but it impacted the value of obj A as well. Now why did that happen? Let's try to understand this again. When we created this, obj A is what we have to think. It's a reference. It's a reference to object A. It is basically reference to this object in the heap, this object which we are creating. Okay, it is a reference to this object in the heap. Similarly, when we say objb, so objb variable is a reference to what? To this object in the heap. Agree, everyone? Agree? Then what we did, we said copy the value of objb to objb. Now, what is the value of objb? The value of objb is a reference to object, this object. So now obj and objb both are pointing to this same object. They both are pointing to the same object in the memory. Then what I did, I changed the value by using the reference objb. So because I changed the same objects, that is why obj A also got changed. Clear or got confused? Everyone clear? Or anyone has any doubt? Sometimes actually people, it's very surprising that nobody is asking this thing. Okay, chalo, Bhupendra is asking one. Okay, fine. Because this, at times people don't get it. Okay, so I'll tell you what I said. Think like this. Consider the situation. I'll show you both the situations. Okay, consider this. Let's talk first in the terms of value type. Okay, in terms of value type. Again, we have two things in the memory. One is stack, another one is heap. Okay, we are talking about value type, and I will take the example of same thing. We have say where a equals to 10 and where b equals to 12. So what has happened is you have something allocated in the memory which is having value 10 and b is 12. So basically your a is also pointing to this location and your b is pointing to this location. Okay, नाउ, अरे पहले भूपेंद्र सुन तो ले एक बार, इंग्लिश में समझ में आ जाएगा, आएगा आएगा. If it doesn't, then I'll explain. But you see this thing. So what I'm saying, A is pointing to location, this location. So basically, this is some memory location. This has some address. It has some address. This is also having some address. So A is pointing to that address. B is also pointing to that address. And that address is the one which actually contains the value, which is 10 or 12. Okay. Then what we did is we said A equals to B. We said A equals to B. When we said A equals to B, what has happened is in the variable A, which is pointing to 10, instead of 10, this thing actually became 12. Because when we do copy in the value type, we basically copy the value. Copy value, copy the value. So value was 12, that value got copied to the location of A, so it became 12. So A is having 12 and B is also having 12. Clear? Now if I change the value of B to 13, B to 13, right? So what I did, I changed the value of B to 13, but it did not change anything on the A. A is still pointing to 12. Clear till here, Bhupender? Okay, interchange nahi hoga. Now we will talk about what happens in the reference type. Something different happens in the case of reference type. Actually different nahi hai. Same thing is happening, but you may think it is different. We have stack, which I told you about. Then we also have a heap. Okay, let's take the same example. I'll say where A equals to say one object which has A equals to 10. Okay, then I have where B equals to another object which has A equals to 12. Okay, okay. Now what I'm saying is in the memory you have some address and A is pointing to this address. Okay, and there it contains, see, in the case of value type it was containing the value 10 and 12. In the case of object, this guy will actually contain the address of the item which is in the heap. So on your heap you have this object A equals to 10. Okay, similarly B, so B is also pointing to one location in the stack. Okay, and that location is actually pointing to an object in the heap. Okay, which is A equals to 12 object. Okay, now what I did, I said A equals to B. I said A equals to B. What this means is A was initially pointing to this. Now A will point to this guy, or not even this guy. Like it will be like this. So you said by copy we have, right? A is still pointing to this location. What will happen? This guy was initially pointing to this. Now because I said A equals to B, so what happened? Whatever the value was B, right? That copied to A. That means whatever this guy was pointing to, now even A is pointing to the same location. Why? Because we have changed the value, correct? The value has been copied. Even this guy is pointing to this location. Now both A and B are pointing to the same object in the memory. Okay, and when I said B dot A equals to 100, so what I did, by using B I changed this 12 to 100. Okay, and then when I access A dot A, I'm still accessing the same location, I'm still accessing the same object in the heap. That is why we are getting different result in the case of value type and in the case of reference type. Is it clear or you guys got more confused? Okay, so you have to be, I agree Pushkar, but yeah, sometimes what happens, right? The things which हाँ मतलब बात तेरी सही है, but again sometimes I feel like some people are not getting it, so I just tell those things again. Yeah, I agree on that. Time is, see, it is actually problematic for me because I have to complete a session within 2 hours, but there are times when there is a spillover, right? But I don't know. That is fine at times because I don't want you guys to just come here and some people are not able to get it. So now I have explained it like twice and thrice, right? So now I believe if somebody is not getting it, correct, correct. So they'll be able to go through the recording and able to understand the stuff. Okay, cool. I hope now you guys know about the reference type and the value type stuff. Cool. Okay. Now when we talk about objects, right, object can have multiple type, like it can contain like an array, it can array can contain anything, right? Similarly your object can also contain anything. Okay, though we have not talked about functions, but your object can contains function also. So when I will talk about function, at that point of time I'll tell you about array also, sorry, or the what all things the object can contain. But for whatever things which we have seen so far, let's try to do that. Okay, so let's say we will create another object. Let's call this object as a student. Okay, this is a student object. Now what all things a student object can have, right? So I can say it may have a name. Okay, the name say is Pushkar. Okay, name is Pushkar. And say I don't know the age, but I'm just guessing, say 22. Okay, and say he has subjects, right? He has subjects. Now subjects can be multiple subjects, right? Because it is multiple subjects, we can say array, right? I can say he has maths, and then say he has physics, or say I'll just simply I'll put his science, or say Hindi or something like that. Okay, so these are the subjects he's having. Okay, then what I can say that okay, whether he's male or not, I'll say true, he's a male. Okay, and what else I can also say? What else I can say about him? Let me think. Huh. Address. He has an address. Now, address is also an object. See, address is also an object. How? So he has a city. Say he has a city, which is say Bangalore. Okay. Now you see how the things are happening. Within student is an object which contain all the things, but it also contains an object, right? Which has a pin code. The pin code is say 56001 or 0066, right? So this is the address. Now what can happen, he may also have street, and that could be another object, right? It could be like, what is the first lane, first lane. Okay, you can put some address here. Then what is the second lane, I mean something like that. You are getting, I hope you're getting what I'm trying to tell you guys, right? So this is how you can have an object. So an object can contain multiple things, right? It can also it can also contain a sub function. We haven't talked about the function, so right now that's why I'm not keeping a function here. But essentially it has all the types which we have discussed, right? It has a name, it basically it has a string, it has a number, it has a boolean, it has an array, right? It has an object which has an object inside it, right? Now if I need to access this object, I can say console.log the student, right? If I do that, I get this entire object, you see, with all the nested things. Now if I need to access the address specifically, see, if I need to access the first lane, how do I do it? I say student dot address dot street dot what, first lane, right? And if I do that, see, I got the first lane, right? This is what I had given, right? Agree? Name comma subject age are keys and address is object. No. So name is a key, age is a key. So name is a key whose type is string. Age is a key whose type is number. Subject is a key whose type is array. Male is also a type, sorry, male is also a key whose type is boolean. Address is also a key whose type is object. Then same thing, city, string, pin code, string. Street is an object, but street is a key only. Okay, anyone has any doubt with the objects? Anyone has any doubt with the objects? No. Okay, no doubt, no doubt, no doubt. Okay, cool. What I'm thinking of doing is, I think I should tell you about function also. We have a bit of a time, and it will be good that if I tell you function now only, at least a little bit idea of function you will get it. Okay, so because I need to tell why पिन कोड इज अ स्ट्रिंग, तो नंबर रख ले यार, कोई दिक्कत वाली बात है क्या? तुम दिल पे ले लेते हो हर बात को, ठीक है? आशीष, फर्स्ट लेन एंड सेकंड लेन इसमें क्यों वो मैंने ब्लैंक कर दिया ऐसे, आई सिंपली जस्ट पुट इट लाइक जस्ट टू शो यू लाइक से देयर इज अ सेकंड सो लैंड, जस्ट पुट इट लाइक a land or something, don't take literal, say consider it doesn't even have that, say a street it has something else also. So without, see what is this, see first lane if you take it without that, right, it will not work. Why it will not work? Because one I have put, right, and one, see what is this street is a key, but essentially it is acting like a variable also, right, it is holding a value, right, so it cannot take, so you cannot have it is starting with one, so that is why I use double quotes. So your key, right, whatever your keys you have, you can either put it as a normal name, right, and say suppose if your key is like this, consider this, so you have a key which is first hyphen name, right, so normally you cannot have like this variable in JavaScript, but if you want to have this as a part of a key of your of your JavaScript object, then you can use double quotes and then it can be considered as a key. Then this can consider as a key. Here, yes, first line is a key. See what I'm trying to tell you. See, this is one way that you can create a key, that you just put the name, or the other way is you can also do like this. So even this is a key, right? The same thing. It is a key. It will be treated the same way. Same thing. Okay. It's just that now when you see even like this address, I can make it like a this stuff. Okay. Cool. See, everything is working perfectly fine the same way. It's just the way you would like to do it. I hope it is clear. Okay, so I was telling you something about the functions. Okay, let's talk about function a little. Hmm. Console.clear. So many times what happens, right? Consider. Huh. Okay, let's say I want to tell you that I will give you a number. Okay, you have to multiply it by 2. I will give you a number, multiply it by 2. So say number which I have given you is say 10. Okay, and then what you did result equals to 2 multiply by 10. Okay, and you did console.log result in this way. Okay, could be. Now again I'm giving you a number, again I'm giving a number, say 30. Okay, then what you're doing again, result equals to 2 into 30. You did console.log result, right, this is what you're doing. Okay, you got 60. Now if I give you another number, say I'll give you like 40. Again I'm asking you to do that, so you are doing result equals to 2 into 40. The result will be 80, nothing special. Now one thing which you see a pattern here, can you guys tell me what is happening in here? A certain pattern is happening. What am I, there is something which I am doing wrong here. Not wrong, but I'm doing, repeating the code, right, I'm doing things again and again. So I did multiply by 2 again, multiply by 2 again, multiply by 2 again, this is one thing. Okay, so to solve these kind of things, what we did, JavaScript came up with the concept of called functions. So the idea of function is that if you would like to do something, okay, and you would like to do that thing again and again at some point of time, or you would like to have a control over it, for that what you could do, you can create a function out of it. You can create a function out of it. Now what is a function? Let's see. So we can write something like this. We can say function. So in our JavaScript, if you need to write a function, we say function, then we tell the function name. In this case, the function name is multiply by 2. So this could be any name. Again, the name you cannot start with number, you cannot start with a special character and all. Same thing here also, right? So multiply by 2 is a function. Okay. Now what I'm going to be doing is I'll use two bracket in front of it. Now these are the two brackets which can takes the parameter. So within these two brackets we can use parameters. Now what those parameters are, I'll explain you. And then we use something called curly braces. So we use start one curly braces and then another curly braces. So once we do this is my function. Okay, and this thing, the thing which is inside the bracket, is called as function body. Okay, and these brackets, sorry, and these items, right? I'll just say these are my parameters. Okay, so this is a function. Now what I'll say in this function is, I'll say result equals to 2 multiply by value. 2 multiply by value. Now I will say value is my parameter. So what it means that whenever somebody will use this multiply by 2 function, it will take a value. It will take a value. Okay, and then what I will do, I will just say console.log result. This is what I did. Now what I'm going to be doing now is I will be using this function. So whatever we had earlier, right, same thing, I will just comment all that stuff. Now I have this function created for me. Now what I'll say is multiply by 2. What you would like to multiply by 2? 12. So if I say that and if I save, I got 24. You see here 24. So what happens is whenever you write, whenever you, so this is a function declaration. So we call this thing as function declaration. Okay, so we have declare a function here. Okay, and this is we call as function invoking or invoking or calling. So here we are calling the function, here we are declaring the function. Okay, now what this function is doing, it is taking a value, then it is multiplying that value by 2. Now when I say multiply by 12, so what happens, your program, the moment it will see multiply by 2 as a function which is having value 12, what it will do, it will call this function. When I say call this function means the program flow will come inside this function. Okay, it will execute all the instruction which are there in the function. Once it will execute all those instruction, then again it will come here. So if I say console.log, this is after function call, that means what will happen, see 24 came first, then this thing happened. So what happened, the moment your program came here, what it did, it executed this code. Once it executed this entire code, then it executed this line. So from where the value 12 came, so what happens, right, Ashish, when you're passing this 12, so you're passing this 12 to this place. So what will happen, this value, right, this value is kind of a placeholder, it is kind of variable. So whatever you're putting it here, that JavaScript will pass to this value, this particular parameter. You see, the I'm putting a cursor, it is coming as parameter. Clear? So whatever 12 I'm passing, that is actually going here. So if I make it as 24, so 24 into 2, 48. So this is your what? This is your function. This is your function in your JavaScript. It is that simple. But there are a lot of things which happens with the function. There is a execution context and other things which we will talk in future. But in a nutshell, this is a function. So you see how easy it became to write the code. It is more easy to write the things because I can say what a function does. It does multiply by 2. So it is easy for me to read the code also, that multiply by 2 and all that things. So Nimai, function declaration is when you are function declaration or function definition, I should call it. Okay, definition. So whenever you are defining a function, that means you are giving a function and we are defining what all thing it has to do. That is something we call as function definition. So this entire thing is your function definition. Okay, and within that, this part is the function body and this part is the function parameter, and it can take multiple parameters. What if I can say multiply by uh, some number, I just call it as, okay, multiply by some number, I'll call it. Okay, and now say I say mul. So this is second parameter, it is taking mul. So what I can say, instead of multiply by 2, I'll say multiply by whatever the mul I'm giving. So I can say 12. So I can change this thing also. 12 comma 2, what I'm saying, 24 को मल्टीप्लाई करो 2 से, मल्टीप्लाई 24 by 2, so I got 48, multiply 24 by 4, so I got 96. Here we can pass as many parameters. Okay, and those parameter values will be getting it from here when we'll be giving those values.